You spent decades planning the numbers. You've calculated your nest egg, run the retirement calculators, and maybe even stress tested your portfolio against market crashes. But here's an uncomfortable truth most financial advisors won't tell you until it's too late. The biggest threats to your retirement are often emotional and psychological. I'm Josh Maley with Modern Capital. I've been a financial advisor for over 25 years, and I've helped over 1,000 people navigate this transition, some successfully and some who wish they could start over. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 3 biggest emotional mistakes people make in retirement and exactly how to avoid them. Chapter 1, losing your identity. When you stop working, the most overlooked challenge in retirement is the loss of your professional identity. For most part of your adult life, a significant part of who you are has been tied to what you do. When someone asks, what do? You don't say, I enjoy hiking and reading. You tell them about your career, your role in your profession. That identity runs deep. It's not just a job title. It's a sense of purpose you get from solving problems, the validation from colleagues who respect your expertise, and the structure that gives your days meaning. When you retire, all of that vanishes overnight. Retirement's impact on mental health varies dramatically based on how much meaning you derive from work. Too many retirees tend to experience a honeymoon phase that fades around 2.5 years after they stop working, and the void sets in. Now, if you're coming from a high-stress job, you'll of course be more likely to experience less of this. But for those who loved their careers and it wasn't taking the color out of their hair, they can struggle with the loss of purpose. I see versions of this constantly. Someone retires, spends the first few months catching up on house projects, takes a vacation or two, then the reality sets in. The days feel long, there's no urgency to get up in the morning, friends are still working, so social interactions drop off. You haven't moved yet, so you're not around the kids and the family you'd like to be around. You're not working, you're not near family, and if you haven't been taking care of yourself physically, your health starts to slide too. The depression, the loneliness, the loss of feeling needed, people don't talk about it enough, but it's real. And it doesn't show up anywhere in a retirement projection. So how do you get ahead of this? Recognize that your identity needs to evolve, not disappear. Your skills, values, and passions don't retire just because you do. Start thinking now about what fulfills you outside of your job title. What problems do you enjoy solving? What makes you lose track of time? Diversify your sources of meaning, just as you diversify financial investments. You need to diversify your identity. Cultivate relationships, hobbies, volunteer work, or part-time consulting before you retire, not after. If you wait until day 1 of retirement to figure this out, you're already behind. Consider a phased retirement instead of going from full-time to zero overnight, and transition gradually. Work part-time for a year or 2. Take on consulting projects. It gives you time to develop new routines and purpose while still maintaining some professional connection. The people who do this well tend to have a much smoother transition than the ones who just walk out the door on Friday and never go back. Successful retirement isn't about stopping work. It's about shifting from external validation to internal fulfillment. Redefining what success means to you, not how others measure your worth. Chapter 2, never giving yourself permission to spend. For decades, you've been in accumulation mode. Every bonus went into savings. Every raise increased your 401k contribution. You delayed gratification because you were building towards this moment called retirement. That mindset served you well. The problem is it's incredibly difficult to flip that switch. Even when you have more than enough saved, even when your advisor shows you projections proving you can spend more, there's a deep psychological resistance to touching that nest egg. Most retirees report life satisfaction scores of 7 to 8 out of 10, even when objective financial metrics suggest they're falling short of savings benchmarks. The relationship between money and retirement happiness is more complex than the industry pretends, but underspending creates its own damage. And this is where it connects to something I think one of the most important concepts in retirement planning. You end up sacrificing experiences during your most active years because you're worried about hypothetical scenarios decades down the road. You skip the trip to Europe because it's too expensive. You keep driving the 15-year-old car even though you can easily afford a new one. You feel guilty every time you spend money on yourself instead of leaving it for the kids. Retirement doesn't happen in one long, undifferentiated block. It happens in phases. The go-go years, typically your 60s and early 70s, when you have the health and energy to truly maximize your experiences. Travel internationally, hike national parks, play with the grandchildren. The slow-go years, usually your mid-70s to early 80s, you're still active but more selective. Maybe a river cruise instead of backpacking through Europe. And then the no-go years, your 80s and beyond, where health issues dominate and most spending shifts to healthcare. Total spending typically declines with age. 69-year-olds spend roughly 10% less than 60-year-olds, and after 61, necessity spending exceeds discretionary spending as retirees become more financially cautious. Your expenses will go down even as healthcare costs increase. But people don't plan for that. They treat retirement spending like a flat line and hoard money during the exact years when they have the health and energy to use it. I often see people who have 1.2 million saved. Their advisor shows them they could safely spend $80,000 per year, but they only feel comfortable with $50,000. Over a 20-year retirement, that's $600,000 in experiences they never had, trips they never took, memories they never made, and their health doesn't wait for them to get comfortable. If you have a major unplanned health event, your window to make the most out of every experience might close a lot earlier than you were prepared for. You didn't save all that money to die with it untouched. You saved it to fund the life you want. If you're not spending it on experiences that bring you joy during the years when you can actually enjoy them, then what was the point? I'm not suggesting to spend recklessly, but work with your advisor to stress test what happens if you spend 10 to 20% more than you're currently comfortable with. Model the impact over 30 years. You'll often find that the plan still works, and suddenly you've got the permission to enjoy what you built. One strategy that helps, designate specific funds for specific purposes. Maybe you earmark $50,000 for a dream trip or a major home renovation. Having that money mentally separate from your core retirement savings makes it easier to spend without the guilt. It's not coming out of the nest egg. It's the money that was always meant for living. You can't bank time. You can't get your health back once it's gone. Give yourself permission to enjoy what you've built. Chapter 3, waiting too long to do what you love. This one is closely related to the spending problem, but it goes beyond money. It's about time. People assume they'll have plenty of time to do everything they want in retirement. They'll travel eventually. They'll pursue that hobby when they're settled in. They'll reconnect with old friends once things calm down. But health and energy don't wait. They decline faster than most people anticipate. I've seen too many clients who saved diligently, retired at 65, spent their first few years getting organized, and then suddenly they're 72 with a health issue that makes their dream trip impossible. Think about a couple who retires at 65 with plenty of money. They've always wanted to hike through New Zealand, but they put it off because they were settling in. At 68, one of them needs a knee replacement. At 70, the other develops a heart condition. They have the money, they have the time, but the window where they had the physical ability to do what they dreamed about, that closed while they were busy waiting for the right time. So front load the meaningful experiences. If there's a trip you've always wanted to take, book it for year 1 or 2, not year 5 or 6. If there's something physically demanding you want to try, do it while your body cooperates. The first 5 to 10 years of retirement are the golden window. Treat it that way. Create a retirement bucket list and prioritize it ruthlessly. What would you genuinely regret not doing? Put those at the top and make them happen in the first 5 years. Don't just think about it. Put dates on the calendar. Schedule the first one within 6 months of retiring. You'll be amazed how much better retirement feels when you're actively checking off things rather than vaguely planning to get to it. I realize this sounds morbid, but it's the opposite. It's about living intentionally. It's about making sure when you look back on your retirement, you see a life well lived rather than a series of postponed dreams. Have an honest conversation with your spouse about this. Ask each other, what are you most worried about? What are you most excited about? What are the non-negotiable experiences? Those conversations surface fears and expectations before they become problems. Chapter 4, how we approach this at Modern Capital. Knowing about these pitfalls is only half the battle. The real question is, how do you actually avoid them? At Modern Capital, we don't just ask about your financial goals. We ask about your life goals. What does a fulfilling retirement look like? What experiences do you want to have? What would you regret not doing? These conversations shape the plan just as much as your portfolio allocation does. We integrate scenario planning specifically designed to give you the permission to spend. We model different spending levels and show you exactly what happens to your portfolio over time. When you can see that spending an extra $20,000 per year on travel barely impacts your long-term security, it removes the psychological barrier that keeps you from enjoying your money. And we serve as accountability partners for your life satisfaction, not just your net worth. We check in about whether you're actually doing the things you said you were going to do, taking the trip, starting the hobby, spending time with the people who matter. Because our job isn't just to help you manage money, it's to help you use that money to build a retirement that you're actually proud of. Retirement is too important to leave to chance, and the emotional side is just as critical as the financial side. If what I've shared today resonates with you and you want help creating a plan that addresses both the numbers and the life you want to live, I'd encourage you to visit our website or reach out to our team at Modern Capital. We work with clients between $1 million and $5 million in assets that are navigating this exact transition. Our planning process looks at the full picture. Your finances, yes, but also your goals, your fears, and your vision for what retirement should be. We work virtually, so location isn't a barrier. The link is in the description.